right, we are back with the most anticipated podcast episode. I'm Nicole, and I'm joined with Catalina. How are you,
Hello.
Kat?
I'm great, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm super excited to talk about it because it feels like a very controversial topic.
It is.
It is, yeah. We're going to be talking about lead generating platforms that you need to avoid at all costs.
Yeah. Do we ever?
Right? So let's dive in. I have not had a lot of experience with WeddingWire or The Knot. And I mentioned it in the last episode. My reason was because I was terrified of signing a contract and committing finances that I wasn't sure would pay out. I would love to hear your thoughts on your experience and maybe like why we should avoid this.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of feelings towards all of these companies. I feel like when they first started, they had good intentions, right? And like everything, greed comes into play in everything. So back in the day, these websites like The Knot and WeddingWire, all that kind of stuff, were meant as a resource, right? It was like a catalog of vendors, and you could create your listing. It created like nice link backs to your website. I remember there was a time where it was like, if you ever looked at a checklist of how to like build your website, it was like sign up for every single platform just so you get that link back, right?
Yes.
And I feel like I entered the industry at the like height of these websites being around, because like there used to be Style Me Pretty and like Green Wedding Shoes and oh god, there were so many that there was another big one and I can't remember. I'm pretty sure they got bought by WeddingWire or The Knot or something, but either way, there was so many of them, right? And you would be able to like put in your listing and people would genuinely reach out to you because they found you on this listing and because it was a site that they actually trusted, right? But then they started to try and monetize these things and it became super predatory. And that is, I think, what bothers me the most is that they started developing, which from a business side of things, I get it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I understand the play. I feel like they really didn't have their customers' best interest in mind at all, though, when they were doing this. So a lot of times when you sign up for these things, they're going to push you to pay for a subscription. And what happens if you don't is you actually get blacklisted. So, and this isn't everyone, right?
Yeah.
This is something that has been happening for a really long time. WeddingWire was one of the worst ones for this, and there was a huge uproar. So it may have changed now, but I remember in the wedding industry, like photographers and stuff, there was a lot of chatter about this, that, they were paying for years to be in these like little black books and all these other things. And then the second that they stopped paying, circa the pandemic, all of a sudden their listing's gone, or they search for themselves and they're not coming up because they're not paying for it anymore, right?
Wow.
So you're literally paying to like rank number one, which is not that much different than Google, but at least Google doesn't hide your website if you stop paying for Google ads.
Exactly.
But the thing that really bothers me is the kind of people who come to these sites. Very similar again to wedding shows, right? So unless you know that that's your target audience and you're really going for that commodity style photo booth where it's like you're doing volume at lower amounts and you've really got your operating costs down super low, like I'm talking drop off people, right? People who just drop off their booths, like this is kind of the only setup I see really working well for this. Those, you're not going to get good people coming to you, and you have to pay for every single one of those leads. You also can't take them out of their system, so you have to do all the communication in the system. So you're now building more workflows, right?
Oh my gosh.
I know. And the thing is the way that they get you is when you first sign up, you might get a lead or two and you're like, oh wow, this is working, so if I pay, I'm going to get more. Right? And you might get one or two more, but again, it's a lead, and how good are these leads that are actually coming in? And 9 times out of 10, they're not good. They're a waste of time. Any person I know who I have talked to ever who has paid said it was a complete waste of money for them. And the only people who have ever seen have success are people who either have been doing it for a very long time and they've almost built their business around that model. Or again, they're a commodity based vendor, meaning that they're doing just volume. You know, that's their play, is volume, not necessarily super niche products or anything like that.
Yeah.
So that's why I've never done it.
Yeah. Wow, that's super interesting. I didn't know about that. I didn't know about the blacklisting. I hope that's changed now. But I do remember like looking into it and asking them if they had a free option, if I could just be on their directory without having to pay for anything. And they basically laughed at me. And then not only that, then I was on their like call list and they were relentless in calling me. I'm like, you guys have like, what kind of sales team do you guys have? Like, this is insane. And literally every 6 months I get a call from them and I'm like, I literally told you never stop calling me again. Like, it just keeps coming. Yeah, I do know there are some people who've had some success, and I don't think it's a one for all, thing. No. But just take this as a caution that it's not a win for everyone, and it would really suck if you commit to signing some sort of contract to be on their directory and then your business gets blacklisted. Like, oof, no, thank you.
Nope.
Definitely I hear a lot of people ask about Bark too, and I actually have experience with Bark. Bark is, man, when it's easy to fall into because they give this promise of leads, right? Like promise of work, and who doesn't want that? Like if I pay, $30 to get a client that's going to pay $700, like, yeah, sure. Who wouldn't want to do that? So Bark, in essence, gathers customers based on a location and region, and then questions them based on like what their needs are, and then they take those answers and like do ads, paid ads, like all over to try and attract people like photo booth owners who are kind of just getting started and want this promise of leads, and like, hey, we have a customer looking in your area for a photo booth. Do you want to pay for this lead? They claim that the leads are legit. They claim that they are, qualified or whatever. And so I did participate in Bark for a little bit when I first started and spent so much freaking money.
Oh no.
Because you pay, right, to get this lead. Yeah. And then you talk to them and they're like, oh no, I only want a photo booth for $200. And you're like, what on earth? Like, where did this, this is not the client that I'm looking for in any sense of the word. So they are very, very low budget clients, and you are outputting money without any promise of return. And so funny story though, I actually did get one client from Bark, and it was a military client. So the story is they, the Air Force where I'm at locally had no idea about photo booths. I mean, they were asking, once I was able to talk to them, they were asking about like, can they choose their different backgrounds? Like backdrops, like they like thinking like AI I'm like, I don't know what kind of experience you've had with that. They just had no concept. It took a lot of education on my part to like just tell them what it's like to have a photo booth at their event. But they were looking for like their annual ball and just had no idea about the process. And so that's how they landed on Bark and using Bark services, is because they were just clueless. And so I was able to talk to them, and I've since done like several events with the Air Force locally, and Space Force now too. Nice. But so it was like, it was hit and miss for sure. It's not impossible to get leads from Bark. You can definitely get leads. Are they going to be your ideal client? I don't know.
Unknown.
Maybe not. Probably not. But again, I think it is one of those things, like if that is something that you want to risk, it's possible. But I think your finances are much better used in ways that can grow your business better, faster, at a la networking and joining in with vendors, getting to know planners in your area, etc. So it can definitely be super tempting to want to go for the quick and easy. And that's kind of like what they promise, right? Is like, oh, they give this illusion of like, you're guaranteed to get bookings. Like, this is the way. This is what everyone does. Like, this is how you do it. And that's just not true. It's not the case. No. I would love to hear from you though. Like, what are some things if people are listening and maybe they're just getting started and they listened to our first podcast episode where we talked about how to get wedding leads and they're still struggling with this idea of how to get more leads? Like, what would you say they can invest in rather than kind of these Bark. Platforms? Yeah.
Yeah. Bark also drives me crazy because for some reason they think we do everything photography related. I don't know about you.
Oh my gosh, no.
Oh yeah, so we don't have a Bark account. I don't know how Katie from Bark emails us 100 times a day saying someone's looking for headshots or passport photos or whatever.
Oh my gosh, how weird.
I know. I'm like, Katie, I don't know who you are.
Leave me alone, Katie.
Leave me alone. Yeah, I mean, you're saying that a lead costs like $30, right?
I honestly don't remember, but it was like it was like cheap enough to where it was like, I could do that. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it wasn't very much.
I mean, those $30, let's say it is $30, would be better spent somewhere else. Because you're $30 for the lead. It's not even guaranteeing you anything.
At all. Like, it's just the possibility that it could work out. Yeah. It's not guaranteed at all. So you find you end up spending hundreds of dollars just to get one solid lead, where it's just a waste of everything.
No. Yeah, I would save that. I mean, again, I am always going to advocate in spending the money on myself to market my own company. So I will, again, if you guys didn't hear the episode about how to get leads, go back and listen to that one. We give lots of tips on how to do that. But like, I would even spend those $30 on Facebook ads before I would spend it on Bark. You know, like, at least with Facebook, you know, you can control who is being shown your ads. And you have control over what that ad looks like, what it says, all that kind of stuff. Whereas with Bark or WeddingWire or anything like that, you're at the mercy of that company, right? So, I would always say just invest it on yourself. First and foremost, you are your best marketing tool. And if, you know, you really are exhausting that and you're already doing as much as you can to get out there, then, you know, if you really are looking into doing any type of paid ads, again, it really depends on who your market is. But if you are going after that general population, you know, Facebook and Instagram ads might be a really good avenue for you. And $30 will get you a long way in a month in Facebook ads, you know, even if it's just brand recognition or anything like that. But yeah, I think that would be a much better use of those $30 than to pay for one lead.
Absolutely. Like, I'll share a story too. Like, I did a little experiment a couple weeks ago where I created an Instagram reel, and it was like POV, you book us for your wedding, you know, in 2024. And it was just like clips of events that I've done, wedding events in the past year. And I put $70 in ad dollars to boost it. And I made sure that I had the areas selected, which I see a lot of people not doing sometimes. Sometimes I'll get ads. I'll get like IG ads from Photobooth owners in like New York. And I'm like, I know you don't service Florida. Like, you're wasting your money. I'm so sorry. Making sure you have your regions selected, making sure you have your demographics selected, you have your keywords, you have like wedding, photo booth, all of those vendors really like nailed down. And I got 2 high paying weddings from it, like over 1,000 each. So like multiplied my you know, initial spend. So for sure, there's way more better ways to invest your money than in these kinds of platforms that are looking to take as much as they can.
Yep, don't do it. Just don't.
One question that I do want to ask you is, do you have like a quick list of like ways to identify? I mean, we talk about ideal client a lot, like identify your ideal client, you know, like how do you do that? Like, what are some quick ways to know, like, okay, this is my ideal client? Yeah,
I mean, look at yourself, first of all, right? That's kind of how I did it for me. So I hated photo booths. I literally thought they were the tackiest, most awful thing. And I remember every company, because I used to work in insurance, and for some reason we had a photo, well, I shouldn't say for some reason, but we always had a photo booth at our events, right? And I remember thinking, I'm like, these are the most disgusting, like, I'm not putting this on my face. I don't know where this hat's been. You know, the photo booth picture quality was awful. None of the graphics, like, they looked like it was made on Word, you know, Microsoft Word, like 3D art.
Word.
The images were like blurry. There's like margins.
Oh, that's so funny.
Like, it was just a disaster. Every photo booth I ever experienced, I'm like, do people just not care?
Right.
Like, how are you selling this?
Yeah.
So when I saw the legacy booth back then from Photobooth Supply Co., it clicked for me, and I was like, this is the kind of booth I would want to have, right? And I know there's people who have, you know, the same level of aesthetic as me in my area, because I'm friends with a lot of them, right? And I was like, this is something that would work for me. So I started targeting people who were very much like me. And that's going to be the easiest thing to do, right? Because I
love that.
define myself pretty easily. I'm, you know, I live in suburbia.
Yeah.
Back then I was like, wait, how old was I? I was 30-ish, something like that.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was at that age where all my friends were getting married. I had a a full-time job. So, like, I just pretty much wrote down what made me up demographically.
Yeah.
And then started saying, these are the people I want to go after, right? I have a knack for, like, not a knack, but I like aesthetically pleasing things. I also really value photography. That was the big one for me, was that I wanted to connect with people who also value photography and who can see the difference between a photo that's overexposed and underexposed and, you know, cropped properly, for that matter. And I remember people used to make fun of me when I was like, you know, being like, oh, you need to like zoom in more. I can see the backdrop. And they're like, aren't you supposed to see the backdrop? And I'm like, yeah, you're supposed to see the backdrop, not the frame.
Not the frame.
Not the
not
wall.
the wall.
Yeah, exactly. You get it. You know?
I get it.
It's like, it should just take up the whole background beautifully. People shouldn't even know what the rest of the building looks like at this point.
Yep.
So, like, that was what I started building my business on. So for me, I was targeting people who really valued style. And so we styled our photo booth to have really pretty sequin backdrops. Back then we had props.
Yeah.
I know. It was a different time, but I handmade all the props using a Cricut machine. They were all like the same color. Everything was like really put together, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what really helped us stand out from everyone else. And then as the years went on, we started defining it a little more, right? The first time I did a corporate event, I started building out, I'm like, okay, who are my corporate clients that I want to work with, right? At first it was like large companies that have, you know, like 50 plus employees that have an office in Ottawa. They do holiday parties, they do trade shows, they do all this other kind of stuff, you know, and that was what we were going after. So all of our messaging really resonated with those people, right? And again, it started growing and growing and growing. So now we're at a point now where it's like, for me, I go after agencies, PR agencies, experiential marketing agencies. That's who we go after for modern activations. For Modern Photo Booth, which is our wedding division, you know, we go after planners. We actually ask every single lead that comes in, if they don't have a planner, we actually don't talk to them. Like, they go through 100% automated sequence. So we don't waste any time on those people because we know that they're not our ideal customer. But if they have a planner, then we have a different workflow that we go through for them. And so we know that we'll close, you know, 70 to 80% of those people that come to us from a planner versus someone who came to us from the interwebs.
Yeah. Oh, that's so valuable. And it also kind of circles back to our initial conversation on the value of like networking and creating those really great partnerships, because when you have a planner that is going to vouch for you, like it's just going to speed everything up and make the whole experience so much better for you as a vendor, because they're going to make sure that you know where to go. You have a correct timeline. Like, I love working with planners.
So good. I mean, they can also be awful, but for the most part,
that's true.
There's always going to be those ones that like, you're like, yeah, anyways, but
Yeah.
no, most of the planners, yeah, they're fantastic. They know the venues, they know their clients. And what I love about that is that like they don't waste your time,
Yep.
right? So they pre-vet you to the client and they say, oh, you want a photo booth? This is who I think you need to go with. And I have some planners that like, they only want to work with us, right? And anytime that their client is like, oh, that's outside of my budget, they literally will beg me. They're like, what can you do? And I'm like, well, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, unless you like reduce your hours or go digital or something
Right.
like that. But that's what they're at. That's the point they're at now, that they don't even want their clients to book anyone else. They'll actually
Yeah.
tell their clients to do something else rather than book another photo booth.
Wow. That's amazing.
Get your target audience, you know, dialed in. Just start simple. Who are the current clients that are booking you now? What do they look like? Write them out in a piece of paper. Who are they? Where do they hang out? All that fun stuff.
Yeah. I love that. And yeah, and then making sure that you're even like I'm on social media brain now from our talk last week, but yeah, like making sure the content that you're creating is also resembling the kind of clients that you want to gather too. I have a similar story too with like why I started. It was very, very similar. I was assisting my sister who's a videographer, and she was doing like a 3-day Indian wedding, and they just like spare no expense. Like it was such an elaborate, like the bride and the groom were both anesthesiologists. So when I say like they had so much money,
So much.
this wedding was like, you just feel like you're poor just like walking in the door. Like it was so beautiful in there. And I looked in the corner of this, in the most flowers I've ever seen in my life. And I look in the corner and there's literal iPad, like just the iPad on a ring light.
What?
In the corner. And then the attendant was wearing a gray hoodie and jeans at this like insane elaborate wedding. I'm like, what? I even knew. I'm like, that's not okay. Like, what happened here? Like, I knew like this is weird. Like there's got to be a better way. And that's what prompted me to like Google search photo booths, because I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. Like,
missed
to
opportunity.
match the aesthetic and the style to like the venue and the wedding. So there's knowing your client is I can't stress enough the value on that. And like there's going to be a client for everybody. Like not everybody is going to be a $3,000 photo booth kind of event and wedding. Your corporate clients aren't going to be these really insane setups and activations. A corporate client is also your realtor down the street, and when they have an open house, like they can also have a photo booth if that's your market and that's your client, and that's okay. Like that's great.
Yeah, like I mean, I know there's one guy in Vegas, I believe, and his entire thing is virtual booths for restaurants. That's all he does.
So cool. Oh wow.
To this day, and he knows specifically what he's going after. He's created his workflow to he can scale as big as he wants. But now his messaging is perfect every single time because he knows exactly what his ideal client's looking for. And so that's how like you can get really, really, niche down with whatever you do. Like doesn't matter. So yeah, people definitely need to do that. And I find that most people who struggle with getting leads, it's because they're trying to be everything to everyone.
So true. Yes. I will say too, like it can be hard sometimes when you're just starting out and you're like brand new to photo booths in the industry to even know where to begin with identifying your ideal client and like knowing what you want to work with. And sometimes it'll be like that trial and error, I think, like in taking clients that you're like, I don't know about this, but I want to try it and experience it. And then learning from that mistake or experience and saying, okay, I never want to do that again. How can I change my messaging so that I'm not attracting more of those kinds of clients,
For me, it's kids' birthday parties.
Oh, you know what? Some people love them. And
I know.
Some people are just like, no, never again.
No, that's me. Yeah. We did a couple of kids' birthday parties once, and no. And to this, like, I still get them.
Yeah.
And I don't understand, right? And sometimes we'll be like, okay, it's a kid's birthday party. They're not going to book. We just send them like the quickest quote and they're like, cool. And then they sign and I'm like, dear God.
You're like, oh no. Who am I sending? Because it's not me.
Exactly. That's exactly it. It is not me. I will die if I have to deal with rambunctious kids and, you know, because a lot of times, you know, the photo booth becomes the babysitter and they are really good at taking thousands of photos and printing every single one of them.
Oh yeah. They're the professionals in the photo booth for sure if there's kids at the event.
Oh my God. And the amount of times my photo booth has been knocked over because a child is just like roughhousing in front of it. And I have children. Don't think I hate children.
I know, same. No, I get the mom stare when I'm at an event with kids. I'm like, down, put it down. Stop touching it.
It's so true.
Listen, I gotta treat some people like that sometimes. Like, there's some grown-ups who I have to treat like children. Like, nope, put the prop back.
Don't put it down your pants. Like, what?
Please stop touching.
The amount of people who put props down their pants that are grown men, I'm like, you can keep that now. That's yours. I don't want that back.
Congratulations, you own that now.
Yeah. So bad.
Well, Kat, thank you. I hope this has been valuable to people on literally what to avoid when you're trying to get new leads for weddings and events. There's a lot to learn when you get started in the photo booth industry, and this is kind of one of those lessons that we hope you don't have to learn the hard way.
Yeah, don't please learn from our mistakes.
Yeah,
We should have called this podcast.
I know, learn from our mistakes.
Kat and Nicole's mistakes.
Exactly.
Thanks so much, Nicole. Again, always a great time.
I know. Yep. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.